Hello and welcome back to another Island 54 development stream where I'm continuing work on my survival crafting MMO. So we left off yesterday having, well, we've implemented the very basic version of the server side of the ontology stuff. And then I started the integration with the client yesterday, got the client kind of calling into the ontology server, and I had this particular piece of code in a bit of a mess. It's still in a bit of a mess because I'm going to need some design changes elsewhere to get this working. Good morning, Griffic. Welcome back. We've got, I presume that's Griffic on YouTube and someone on Twitch at the moment as well. Welcome to whoever that is on Twitch. Okay, so the code here was assuming our old definitions of item data and things like that. Now, I need to base this all off the sort of the ontological item IDs rather than the old descriptors for items. And so that's going to take a little bit of work to change. And I'm going to actually start working on the server side for that. I hinted either last stream or the stream before that I was going to have to make a change to the scatter generator so that the scatter generator, when it's placing stones and things, is aware of which item IDs it's placing. So let's do that first. If I can find my IntelliJ, there it is. And I'm just going to come straight into the scatter generator. And there's a YAML file somewhere in here. Did I just put it in config? Yes. Okay, this is going to be simpler than I thought. Sorry if there's a bit of noise. I've had to leave my front door open. I had a bit of a kitchen incident this morning, so I need to get some fresh air through. Unfortunately, I also live on a main road, so we've got lots of buses coming through. All right. So here we define our scatter rules, and this refers to entity prefabs. So if we go and look at our entity service, where's something in the entity service? I'm going blind. Entity. All right, let's just go straight to it. Entity prefabs. We can see that we define these here, and we have this model is flat stone, and this is where I want to start making the change. Kitchen incident. Oh, I burnt something in the oven, so yeah, it's nothing too bad. All right. So at the moment, we send through, whenever we're sending one of these items through, we send through an attribute, which is its model name. And this is just kind of an enum at the moment. These are hard coded in the client. So we can do a little bit better here. And the way we can do better is we can actually refer to the ontology ID. Now, what do these look like? These are going to be things like items. No, not items. Sorry, we just go straight to scatter, stone. Which one's this? Is the flat stone. And then we'll do likewise for the round stones. Oops. Here, there's our round stone. Do the same thing here, but make that a round stone. So now what will happen is instead of us sending back that model attribute with each item, we'll instead send back the reference from the ontology. Now the client will need to have a copy of that ontology so that it can look up what the actual prefab for it is. Now conveniently, I've got this effectively referencing what's in the client side. So this shouldn't be too hard to do. I'm going to have to comment out a lot of this code though, because this isn't going to compile yet. So I'll just do that and we'll just return an empty list. I'm sure there's an easier way of doing an empty list than that, but that will do. Another problem in here, available recipe with tool. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, ontology. I'm kind of harping back to when I was at uni. There was a course in it was AI, I think. I'm pretty sure it was AI, and it's used. The words are used fairly extensively in AI systems that try to develop an understanding of the world. So where they're trying to build up models of the relationships between items and what properties items have. That's usually referred to as an ontology. So I'm just kind of reusing that there. I think it has some other meaning in literature or something like that as well, but I'm just using the computer science AI definition of it. Not really AI, it's more just modeling, like computer science, computer systems modeling the real world. Um, okay, so pop the crafting interface. Here we do need to do an async, wait, sorry. And then this will have to become async. Now, anywhere that we call this, we need to be a little bit careful here. No, I think that's okay. Taxonomy, yeah, that's actually not bad. Um, yeah, I'm not sure um, why the field that I used to learn about uses the word ontology, but I'm just sticking with it for now. But taxonomy is a pretty good description as well. I think that taxonomy is more about um, describing attributes of things, whereas ontology is more about the relationships between things. So it's sort of a broader concept. And here I'm certainly doing recipes, and so I do feel like ontology is probably slightly more appropriate here. Uh, taxonomy would also work. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is okay. The fact that this isn't async is fine, because the moment, my understanding is the moment we call into an async void method, that will cause that task to automatically start, and there's no return value, so this is all good. Okay. So this compiles at least. Next thing I need to do, well, we definitely need to blow away the database because just getting my stuff working in Git there. We need to get rid of the database because all of my scatter has the wrong properties on it now. Obviously, this isn't ideal going forward. It would be nice to have some form of migration allowing items that already exist to get updated, but I'm not going to bother with that yet. Yeah, your actions processes. Your actions processes, from what I understand, they feel very similar um, to command pattern to me. I could be wrong there though. But you're also putting capabilities on those actions, aren't you? So yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's down. I need to bring up the server. And hopefully this is able to come up. If I start the client, then we won't get any items rendering anymore. I think we'll get trees, but no stones. I'm a bit confused as to why we're generating payloads. Do I... Oh, I already have a client running. Okay, so we run that. It will generate some terrain, and we should get some trees and shrubs, but no stones. Oh, wow. I don't know. Ah, yeah. Yeah, okay. Um, as funny as that looks, if it doesn't know how to draw something, at the moment it's drawing it as a player. So all of the stones are being drawn as players. That's fine. That's kind of not the best default to be using, but it shows that at least something is working here. Okay, next. I need to get the client drawing the correct items. So I guess the best way to do that is as the client connects to the server, have it download the ontology. So here's the remote session. This stores whatever the last pending message was. That's all okay. We've got all sorts of details. So I'll also attach to this somewhere sensible. Where will I put it? We've got the remote details. Let's put it in here. I'm just going to put a reference to pink squares. Yeah, that'd be good. Or there's probably some other game that I can steal an idea from. I wonder what Minecraft does as its default block. Maybe I can make them just the grass blocks from Minecraft. That could look funny. So we've got a public. I'm going to put the ontology store in here. Now, this is something that needs to be awaitable. I presume there's no such thing as an async property. Is that true? Ah, okay, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I'll nick it from Minecraft then. C#, is there such thing as an async property? I mean, I could just make it a task, right? Excuse me. Why? A property is supposed to mimic something the field typically should perform little work. If you have a long-running property. Oh, yeah, okay. That's a fair comment. Yep, I will take that on board, that comment. So basically they're saying don't use properties for async stuff because it might not C# async uses tasks, which are tasks do implement promises. They can implement other things as well, but the way we're using them, they are, I think, even internally referred to as promises. But if I do something like that, then when I establish a connection, I can set this to be a task, which I can then put a getter on. So we can do something like public ontology store async task. Oh, it doesn't need to be async at this point. Let's do task ontology store get ontology store. And then this can just return ontology store. Now, I know this looks like a property, but I'm just taking on the advice here that a property should not be doing work or taking ages. So this is really just saying, hey, this could be something that you need to, so you can put an async on it. Oh, sorry, banging my microphone. So this just makes it clear to the caller that if you are getting this, then you might need to await on it, which is fine. So now when we do establish a session, where does that happen? Probably in here. Not quite in here. Is there a start or something? Perform connect. Connect, here we go. So what I'll do in here is say, I'll just kick this off with a new ontology client dot fetch store and just say ontology store is going to be equal to that. Because this is async. I'm feeling a bit more comfortable with C# async at the moment. That could be because I'm about to do something really stupid and shoot myself in the foot. But this feels right to me. So this is a promise. When we want to reference it, we need to await on it. And that's all okay, I think. Let's try it. Best way to try it is when we fetch. I'm going to end up with a lot of asyncs in my code. I don't think that's a bad thing. Although I think I've heard somewhere that async can have a bit of performance overhead. So I do need to be slightly careful. My usual strategy is worry about it when it becomes a problem. Okay, so where am I going to reference this? This is going to be when we're processing entities coming in from the server, which is probably in, I don't think it's remote session. I think it's in the server manager. Does this refer to model? Here it is. You need to switch contexts. I think from memory, the performance issue is around allocation of the object that represents the task. Switching contexts, I mean, you may not need to switch context. So for example, if you await on a task that's already resolved, then there is no context switch. So that shouldn't be an issue. If you need to wait on something, then you have to wait on it. So there has to be a context switch anyway. So I don't believe that's a genuine performance issue. But I have heard something around the allocation of the task objects being, in some use cases, an undue burden. But yeah, I'll see when I get to it. So if the component is a mob or it's an item, then let's continue checking if it has a model. That'll let our trees continue rendering. Otherwise, component.attributes.getValue or oops, get value or default. Now I'm going to pull out the ontology ID. Let's actually change that to item ID because we do have, in fact, let's make it ontology type ID. I am using pipes elsewhere to use like a dotted notation. Then back over in my other window, get the prefabs, ontology type ID, and ontology type ID. We'll need to blow away the database again. Okay. So if we have a type ID, then we need to return some sort of a prefab. For ontology item. That is string item ID. Item ID. Okay. Let's just grab something like that. Do that. Can I do a Control-Shift-E? Sorry, I just need to pull my window off to the side because I'm not sure if I'm about to expose a secret. So I can do that. Sorry, not sure what access to my old clipboard IntelliJ had, and yeah, I don't want to accidentally show you guys my stream key, which has been through my clipboard recently. Okay. That. Item ID. Now, this is not going to be a switch, is the best part. So I'm already liking this approach. What we need to do is we need to map this item ID to a resource. Now, I'm going to have to do some messing around with caps and things like that. So I think it's just a matter of changing everything in item ID. If we treat it as a path, change the path components to have initial caps, then I think this is good. My other option is back in here. I could, in fact, I will do this for now. It's just going to simplify my code. If I change these to have initial caps, then I don't need to mess around with the... Oh, these aren't meant to be caps. Sorry. Things that are meant to be caps are my actual items. Here we go. Scatter stones that. Scatter stones that. Not sure if I'm introducing a potential security issue here, but let's worry about that later, like everything else. Oh, I need to look up that ID, sorry. I need to be a little bit careful here. How am I going to look up the ID? I need to get the store. Session dot get ontology store async. Um, you know what? This here is wrong. I should be making it so that when this code runs, this will always return a valid value. And the way I can do that is back in my remote session. I can make the ontology store a property. I don't know why I didn't think of doing this before. Like that. And then I just need to make sure that this gets written out before the connection is fully established. Because I must already have stuff that's waiting on that. So we've got perform connect, and then we've got connect. I'm going to make this a wait on that. I'm going to make this one an async task. Almost. We do it as a coroutine. All right. Let's do underscore details. Where does the ontology go? What? Perform connect. Oh, yeah, don't mind me. We're just going to say ontology store is going to be equal to a new ontology store client. Hello, Oslath. Welcome back. Now, I think that I can just do fetch the store dot result, and the reason for that is this is an enumerator. So this will, I don't believe it will. Yeah, I don't believe this will run on the main. Like, I think this can run inside the message pump. If not, then I'll have to change this to be using async. All right, yield, return. Don't really care what we return here. I think this will work. This does not need to be async anymore. The problem is, though, that the client can't tell once the connection has been established. Oh, however, we know that data can't come in from the server until, I mean, this is a bit dodgy to make this assumption, but because the connection doesn't happen until down here, we know that we will have this before any code gets called in the client. So yeah, it's dodgy, but all of that code definitely has to be rewritten. I'm not a big fan of using both the coroutines and async, and I'm sure I can come up with a much better solution. Okay, so now we can just use the ontology store, I believe. Session dot ontology store. Why is that not working? It's probably because it's private or something. Yeah. Dot items. Item ID. Dot ID. Dot prefab. Now, this will crash if that doesn't exist, but I am just trying to get this working as a proof of concept. Okay. I mean, the odds of this working first go are not good, I have to admit, but it's worth a try. Okay, run the server. Hopefully we don't get players scattered across the landscape again. I suspect we will. Or it'll crash. This doesn't look promising, does it? Okay, I don't think this is working. So I might need to slightly redesign the way that remote sessions work. Presumably, when connect gets called, this offers something of a gate. It should offer something of a gate. So who calls connect gets called from inside here. Yeah, I know what the issue is here. The issue is that this start coroutine actually causes it to run this code. It's either before or after the update method. But then it's doing it from the main thread. So once we come into here, it will, it sees this iterator come back. Oh, sorry. It sees this iterator come back, enumerator come back. And then from the main thread, it's doing this stuff. But the problem is, this fetch store is trying to do async work. Therefore, this will deadlock. So, I need to think this through a bit more. I think that what I need to do is not use an enumerator and instead use an async. And then I need to trigger this on a background thread. And then use some sort of an event or something to detect when the connection has been established. Okay, let's try this. All right, this is using the Unity client. So I need to change this to be using the Microsoft C# HTTP client. Which is going to do that. Post async URI. And then I need to give it, let's just find my code from the entity service. Post async will have a reference to the entity client. Content is something like this. Here it is. Oh, I don't actually send anything through in the body, do I? So I think I can just get rid of that. Get rid of that. Does it insist on having a parameter there? Content. Okay. And then we just await on that. So the response to this is actually the list of endpoints that we need to contact. Things like entity queries and all that kind of stuff. So we should be pulling the result of that out. That'll happen later. This, I think I want to do a local variable, use a variable. Is session manage dot status code, is it? Yep. Oh, it does pull out some session information. Response. Let's change this to response. Okay. Now the thing here, form connect can get called when you try to connect or when some timeout expires. So I need to have some sort of a way of telling when this is completed. Let's see, I can get rid of this. I need to work out how to do that. Oh, right. Expensive method invocation. Oh, a void is not awaitable. That's, yeah, okay. That is fair enough. So that will just happen in the background. When does connect get called? That gets called down here. So the issue I have is that we have no guarantee at this point just here that we actually have a new session. In fact, we won't have a new session. How can I manage that better? Well, one thing I could do is I could make this async and return a task of, I don't know, remote session. Doesn't really matter what that is. I can await that. I can async that. This isn't very well thought out, this change, because at some point, this is going to get called from Unity on the main thread. And I actually want to prevent... Oh, okay, no, this is easy. I think this is easy. At some point, I want to actually call this stuff out on a background thread, right? So that all of this async code can work and it can run off the message pump on the main thread. I can't block on the main thread, but what I can do is I can put things into I can just record a state somewhere and then in an update method, have it check whether or not the task is completed. Once the task is completed, then it can decide how it behaves based on that. The actual decision as to how it behaves should be based on this status. Obviously, the game shouldn't run while it's trying to establish a session, but once it is established, it can then run as normal. So all I really need to do, I don't need to await here. I can just trigger this connection out the back. Yes, it needs to not... Let's connect. I'm going to just change this back to void. So connect will cause the state to get updated. I can't remember where that happens. Here it is. It gets set to establishing. So now back in here, when I call, I think I should have an update method somewhere in here. Here we go. Oh, and I've even got the code in here already. If the session status is not established, then there's just nothing we can do. We can't run the game. So there's no need to do any of this code. But as soon as it's established, at that point we can start doing this code, and we know that the session is in a good state. One thing I love about TypeScript is how easy it is to switch between sync and async. See, that's what I'm having troubles getting my head around. And I was confusing myself in yesterday's stream. I'm not sure how different it is, because when you put async on a method in TypeScript, if it's void, then that's fine. Same as in here, I can make this async if I, well, probably not this method, but I could make a method async if it returns void, and that will just work. I don't need to change anything upstream. If this does have a return type, like a foo, then making it async, I have to put a task around this. But that's the same as TypeScript. So I agree with you, Griffic, but I'm not sure why. I'm not seeing what the difference is in making these methods async versus a TypeScript method async. I will give you the fact that you cannot write procedural code, purely procedural code in TypeScript at all. And Unity pushes you to write procedural code. And it's when you get that barrier between the procedural and async code that you do run into this weirdness. But I think that this is a valid general solution, which is you can cause the main thread to wait on asynchronous code just by using a status field. And your update method can just poll once every frame, waiting for that status to go the right way. Yeah. Hello, random guy. Welcome back. Currently trying to work out whether or not in TypeScript, you can omit return types. Ah, yes. Yeah, fair enough. Not sure if I agree that's a good thing, though. I think that makes it very, very easy to be returning a promise and never actually execute that promise. I think. Could be wrong. Okay. Although a good IDE should be able to detect that, and yeah. Uh, I mean, this is a fair point. Maybe I do want to be storing a task, but for now, I'm not going to. All right, I have no idea what I've changed in total here, so I'm just going to give it a spin and see what happens. Oh, well, I should have fixed the deadlock. Yes, I believe I fixed the deadlock. I have, but we're not getting any items. Oh, that's not good. New devlog. As soon as I can get it out, I do have a bit more time available at the moment, so hopefully soon. But I need to pop back and work out where I'm actually at. The problem with getting pulled away from things is it can take quite a while to context switch back into them. So hopefully very soon. So this isn't working. It is thinking that we've gone into an error state. We probably have gone into an error state. The question is why? I didn't know that there was a general language service for TypeScript, Graphic. That's yeah, really interesting. I assumed that all the IDEs had to do their own smarts. Okay. So I presume that this is somehow getting into the error state because the status code is not okay. Response is a message. In here, let's just go log error, failed to create a new session. Let's do this as a string interpolation. No $sign. Yep. Response dot status text or something. Get the status text. TypeScript team migrated the language service into the compiler once they noticed that IDEs were only half baking. Yeah. Makes sense. It's a smart response to it. Okay, response is, how do I get to the response message? Let's just look up the documentation. How do I get reason phrase? There it is. So let's give the reason that. I'll rerun that, and now what we should have is a description of what's wrong with my request. Nobody and no knows. And no idea. What do you call a person with nobody and no nose? Why does it say created, created? What on earth is this? Oh, nobody knows. Oh, that one. Yeah, I kind of like that one. How to create a new session? Oh, yeah, no, this is dumb. This pattern here is not good. I actually want to have like an is okay-ish dot is so just to describe what's happening here, we're actually returning the I don't know how to get the actual integer value of that. Let's just leave that for now. Yeah, so the issue here is that this is returning a 201. And we're checking, or I was checking, if it was okay. This is not what I want. I want to say, is it to something? To XX. Status code. I think this is... Oh, that's a bit annoying. There will be music in my game. I need to work out how I'm going to do it. I can't use... I've been looking into the licensing for music. I can't use the stuff that I use, for example, on... or that other people use on YouTube. I was actually talking to one of the better known composers from the YouTube music library, and it's apparently not They don't even own the rights to their music anymore. So all that music you hear on YouTube that's come through through YouTube's free music, uh, that's all owned by Google now. And even the original composers have no rights to it beyond the right to be credited. Uh, and Google won't allow you to use it outside YouTube. So I think I'm technically breaking the rules with because I actually, all my videos get sent through to Odyssey as well. And I think that's technically against the rules. So something for me to watch out for. Uh, and so, yeah, I need to find a source of music. I'll probably use like Incompetech or someone like that just to get a bit of music in there to start with. Uh, but yeah, otherwise I'll try getting some custom stuff done just over on Fiverr or something. There's a few composers there that seem to have some okay music at an okay price. The composer I was talking to is pretty expensive. They're fairly well known, but they're I think $1,000 per 60 seconds or something. So that's yeah, I won't tell YouTube. Listen, YouTube. Uh, yeah, so $1,000 per minute is kind of well outside my price range at this point. Whereas you can get much cheaper on Fiverr, and there seem to be some pretty good composers there. So yes is the answer to the question. I will have music. I just need to work out how I'm going to do it. In the short term, I believe it will be Incompetech. No idea if I need a special license from Incompetech to put it outside a video, but I seem to remember the Incompetech licenses being really, really cheap. Okay, we just yeah, $1,000 a minute is pretty pretty steep. Uh, but yeah, I mean he's a good composer, that one. Maybe if my game ever gets funded, I'll be able to afford like feature length custom sound and might sound really good, but I'm not paying for that myself. Okay. So my issue here is I need to find a way of asking if this is okay-ish. Um, I'm gonna have to make my own function for that. Uh, what's the actual type of this? Is it an enum? Yes. Okay, so there's nothing on there that can do it. Uh, I am tempted to say, can you make extension methods for enums? C sharp enum extension method. According to this site, right away, writing that. Okay, enums aren't classes, so I can't do an extension method. That's all right. Uh, yeah, the funny thing with just replying to that comment from Oslath about, if game gets traction, goes corporate. Um, to bring, like, I totally accept that to get this game to market is going to take a lot of resources. Uh, I the goal for me at the moment is just to prove the concept. And if I can prove the concept, then my goal would actually be to go out and find funding. So find someone willing to buy a piece of the company, a piece of the game and basically give me money to spend. Because I don't think I can get this game polished enough to do well on my own, and so I'd need to find some other source of capital. It's stuff I'm used to doing. I mean, I've got a background in doing startups, and it's kind of a part and parcel in running a startup is going out and finding money. It's just part of every day, in a startup. Not surprised they're compiled away. Yes, they are compiled away, Griffith. That is the issue here. So what I actually need to do is I need to get the system.net.that. There's probably a helper somewhere. System.net.http status code dot, and then I want to say is success. This is exactly what I want, but I don't want to write it like that. Is success status code. This is exactly what I'm after. So this is the correct pattern. We're actually just meant to go is success status code. Okay, so that should fix that. Favorite book as you walked in your room. Tidy your floor, random guy. Like I'm talking to my kids. All right. I'm feeling really distracted today. It's all your faults. All your faults for chatting with me. But I do feel like this is progress happening here. I've been wanting to rewrite that connection code for ages. Oh, right. This looks still broken. The object you want to instantiate is null. Oh, this is nice. Proof. What's the... What do you mean by proof, random guy? So I think that this is where I'm trying to instantiate the prefab. So I'm just going to throw a breakpoint in. This code does not surprise me at all that it's not working. Prefab for entity update. So I think we're coming in... No, not prefab for entity update. I want the other one. Remote entity. No. This one. Oh, proof of you distracting us. Of you guys distracting me. No solid proof at all. And as I said, I feel like I'm making progress today. I'm just kind of jumping all over the place. As long as you guys don't mind it, I don't mind it. Where's that code that I just wrote? This one. Like that. Okay. So it is coming in here. We've got a session. We've got an ontology store. We've got items. We have 3 items. Our item ID is scatter stone around stone. That's fine. So it'll come in here. And then the value should have a prefab for scatter stones that. I don't see what's wrong with that. Prefab is null. Okay. I get it to split this. And back in here, yes. So back to what I was saying earlier, actually, that around, if at the quantity of money I suspect I'd need to get the game to market, you know, a bit of money for some good quality music would, it would be small compared to the effort for artwork and that kind of stuff. So I I think that if I do get funded, then at that point I'll start looking at good quality music. All right. So here I just don't know what's going wrong here. I suspect this is going to be something really dumb. And once I see this breakpoint get hit, I'll know what it is. Prefab is scatter. Ah, here we go. No. Why is it not? Oh, I see. I didn't restart the game, but I can just use a watch in here. Control. Let's do control tests. Control F8. I think I need. Control F8. Uh, um, it's evaluate is what I want. Control Shift A, evaluate expression. Alt F8. There you go. Scatter slash stones slash stone round 80. What's my studio's name? I think Island 54 is the name of the studio. Um, uh, and yeah, 70% of an MMO budget is content and art. Yeah, I think for most games, it's very, very high. Like I'd say it's even higher than that, like 90% art uh, and the content, like level design and stuff like that. For MMOs, it's going to be lower, but just because the cost of developing the infrastructure is obviously higher. Um, uh, Servers, databases, and uptime are also very expensive. Yeah, there's uh, there's this idea that it costs to double, well, to halve your downtime tends to cost you about 10 times as much. Yeah, all you need for a studio is a name. I do happen to have a company as well that kind of owns all of this. You don't need a game, do you, for a studio? um, and yeah, Oslath, you wonder if paying freelancers for all the artwork is viable. Um, uh, what you need, what I want to try is there are people on sites like Fiverr who specialize in the various parts of content creation. So um, there are people that do 3D modeling, there are people that do animation, there are people that do concept art, and people that do kind of writing, as in like writing descriptions and behaviors of things. And something I'm interested to do as an experiment is just try picking a mob. It would probably be the mob that will replace the troll, and go through and uh, get each of those steps. So start with some concept art, get someone to write a little bit of fiction about it, like just the descriptions that could be presented to players and form the basis of the design. Get some 3D art done, get some animation done, and just see what it costs using freelancing to build a mob with me doing as little as possible. Uh, um, need to register your name too? Yes, and now that you mention it, please don't anyone go and register my my name as a trademark. I need to get around to doing that. I haven't done that yet. When you do a startup accelerator, they tell you it's one of the first things you should be doing is once you've got your name, trademark it. Otherwise, someone else will get in there before you. It's not quite as simple as that. People can't go and trademark a name that you're already using. But there's not necessarily any need to formally register a name if you don't want to. And as long as no one else has registered it before you started using it, then they can't stop you from using it. As long as you've got evidence that you were using it, and the YouTube videos obviously count as proof for me. Okay. Um, so, is it expensive to trademark? No, I can't remember the actual prices, but uh, there's the two market side go in US and Australia. Okay, so that's a bit more than I was expecting. So a few $100s. Um, the it's not $250. It's because you'll end up with multiple classes. Just that you do have to get approved for a trademark. It's not that difficult if your name is not something trivial, and as long as it's not something that's been used to market a similar good or service to yours. Like I think if you look up Island 54, there's some. It was after I started using it, some rapper released a song or something like that. So I obviously couldn't trademark Island 54 for music or something like that. Yeah, better than a few $1,000s and a lot better than a patent. I think that um, my one of my companies developed a patent, and that cost us the best part of 50 grand. So yeah, patents are a lot more expensive than trademarks. The good thing about trademarks is you can do them yourself as well. A patent, you'd be crazy to do yourself. You need lawyers to do that. But a trademark, you don't need a lawyer. Just do them yourself. Okay. And Griffith, you need to make you need to make a website to have proof of usage. Yeah, just be aware that using a mark uh, while it stops someone else from trademarking it, or at least someone else from enforcing their trademark on you, it doesn't stop other people from using the name as well. So you just need to be a bit careful there. Um, Buying a domain, weirdly, is not enough to protect a mark. Um, and the reason is you actually need evidence that you're offering, uh, that you intend to offer a product or service. And it's not enough to say, hey, I'm using this name. You need to kind of indicate what it is, because you can't trademark a name for everything. You can only trademark it for a particular class of goods or services. So yeah, don't make the mistake of thinking registering a domain secures the name for you. Okay, now I was trying to work this out. Oh, I see the problem. Already see it. Um, okay, I see my problem. I just need to find my editor. all I need to do in here is just go, I can find my dollar sign, that prefabs. I promise I won't trademark it, Random Go. Okay, I've got a good feeling about this run. I think that this is going to work. Nope. Still not there. Ooh. While applying chunk invalidation results. Oh, yeah, sorry, chunk invalidation. So this is trying to load a chunk's worth of data. Um, so we get the prefab is prefabs scatter stones. Go back here. Oh, I can't. I really wish that Unity would find a way of doing the UI and the game main thread on separate threads. I want to be able to debug my code and move around in the UI at the same time. So we have a prefab, which is prefabs scatter stone. Let's just copy that out and put that in there. So now we load that resource and it's null. So let's actually do this. If it is defined, then return it. Otherwise, we'll go back to the default, which is a character. Yes, maybe I like it. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's killed Unity. Prefabs terrain scatter stones. Yeah, okay, that's my issue. So we go prefabs terrain scatter stones. Terrain scatter stones. Uh, and this, I don't need to reconstruct my data, I don't think. I'm confused. No, I don't need to because my entities. Can't talk for VOD watchers. That's the time traveling VOD watchers. Um, yeah, let's just check what my entities look like. Control R slash entities, something like that. Yes, because this is actually an unintended, very cool thing. Um, because I don't store the ontology data on these components, I just store the type ID. I can change the ontology and it will just work. Because we don't expand this out, which is nice. A random guy might use it. Oh dear. Let's do this. Yeah, I agree with that graphic. That would indicate that you intended to make games by creating an itch account and just posting something. So we do that. Yay, we actually have a prefab. Yay, we've got stones again. Okay. Now, I don't think my crafting will work at all now. No, I don't even have a craft option. So, it's time to do that. I'm actually going to take a 5-minute break, get myself some coffee, and then get back to getting the crafting menu coming back up again. So where is my stream paused option? Tools, scripts. All right, I'll be back in 5 minutes. There we go. Cutting it a bit fine on my 5 minutes there. Okay. So, for each of these items, we know which item it is from the server side. So now what we should be able to do is work out which tool the person is using. And we should be able to work out which inventory slots they have. So I've got a feeling this is going to be pretty straightforward. No worries, random guy. So we don't need to fetch this anymore because we attach the ontology store to the... how long will I be streaming for today? No more than another hour, I suspect. I have some other things I need to be doing this afternoon. Yeah, I can't imagine I'll stream past 1, which is an hour away. So, what we need to do in here, this no longer needs to be async. We need to get our input slots. Now, the rule I'm going to use is I'm only going to consider crafting using tools and items that have their ontological data present. That's going to drastically simplify all of this. Is this even the right? How do I return? Wow, that's a big function. Yeah, so I need to rewrite this stuff, which means I wish I had commented this a bit more. Input slots. We ask for... Oh, okay. Yes, so this is the first thing I'll rewrite. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a string. In fact, can I use an ontology item? I think it's like that. Is that ontology? No. No. What have I done? I'll just make this a string for now. This will map from the ID to the item stack. It's a bit of a shame this is still called old. I got partway through refactoring something. Available input slots excluding some slot, which is a tool. So what we do is we then come in, we grab all of the slots, and we're going to return the ones where they are not the slot that's being excluded. And there is an item data and here's an issue. I need a way of getting the ontology ID. So I think the best way of doing that is going to be to store that on the item data itself. Welcome back, Griffith. Let's go. Ontology ID. We know it's an item. Don't need to say ontology item ID. Let's just make that a property. Down here somewhere. Okay. Rule. Oh, these are... Okay, this is a problem. Item data is a scriptable object. And I'm trying to get away from this because the reason I use scriptable objects is so that I can configure these things in Unity, but I don't want to configure them in Unity anymore. So I think that what I'll do instead is just store the store another property on the slot itself. Where do we store that? Inventory slot or something? JSON? No, YAML. They're being stored in YAML. Over on the server side. Systems, clients, ontology. Systems. Item. Okay, hang on. I'm going to need setters on this. Underscore item. And that's meant to be one of those. What? So get is really simple. That does just return item. Set, on the other hand, is going to have to do something equivalent to this. I've got a fair bit of logic in here. Some of it might not make a huge amount of sense, but I'll try just maintaining it as is for now. Too many brackets or something. Yes. Yeah. The thing I'm going to dread is when I start having containers. That is going to complicate things a bit. I kind of have virtual containers at the moment. I don't know if anyone remembers one of my episodes. I have like an inventory interface that pops up on the right when you're within a land claim. And that's just the stuff on the ground in that area. But yeah, nesting and stuff can be really difficult. What have I done here? I've got an absolute mess. Oh, this looks better. value dot. I don't like this. Okay. So rather than doing this, I've already got this concept of an item stack. This has a reference, it has a quantity, which is fine. We understand quantity, that's consistent. But what I have in here is an item data. Here we go. So this is meant to be public item from ontology. We have a quantity. This is not. I have containers in containers. Yes. Yeah, I've got some ideas for some fairly original stuff around kind of nesting of inventory. As you say, medkits is a good example where you do want a grouping of stuff. And I want a similar idea. But I also want I don't want people to be sitting there, in Minecraft, people are building these ridiculous contraptions just to sort their stuff into chests. Um, I want to try and avoid that if possible, and have you able to just kind of push stuff into the local storage. So if you've got, if you're in a shed with a bunch of chests, you should be able to say, all right, just put these items into storage and have the UI manage where things go rather than have to um, uh, yeah, rather than have to say, all right, this item's going in that chest, this item's going in that chest. I want it to kind of give you all of your chests as a whole. I'm not sure what that will look like exactly, but I suspect your house will have a certain amount of storage, and then there'll be some organization of that within the UI. And then as you add chests, that increases the storage, but doesn't necessarily complicate the UI, if that makes sense. All right, so we've got an item, we've got item data. In here, we need to say item is null and item data is null. In here, yeah, item is going to be other dot item. Just port this code to support. This is effectively a union in here. I don't think that is C# in support the one of C#, one of type. Is that built into? Is this built into C#, or is this? Let's try it. Oh, hang on. It is one of that or that. Yeah, inheritance is I have lots of opinions about inheritance. It's an often misunderstood concept. People overuse it when they should be using composition. and they underuse it when they should be using it. And instead, they just end up with classes that are just too complicated. All right, so I'm going to try making this a one-off. I might regret this. Oh, this is not built into C#. I'm not going to use a library just to do this. Might simplify the code a bit, but given I plan to get rid of my item data class, I'm not going to bother using it. Okay, so looking for item data. Anywhere I use item data, I need to duplicate something. Item is going to be null. I think the data is when I think composition really becomes handy, and the reason for that is when you start getting it's too easy to get multiple inheritance when you're trying to use inheritance for your data. Often you will have it's very easy to get objects classes, sorry, that need to inherit their data from two different places, and then you run into all sorts of problems. Either, well, most languages just don't support it, or you've got mix-ins, or C#, C++, you've got virtual inheritance, which has obvious performance impacts, and developers just don't know how to do virtual inheritance. But yeah, I think that data is when composition really comes into its own, because you're basically saying that some particular class is actually made up of these other subcomponents, which I think if you're starting to describe things in that way, then that's a perfect use case um, for composition. When you're talking about behaviors, then I tend towards inheritance, unless what you're effectively doing is dependency injection. And if you're trying to inject dependencies, then you need to use composition again. Um, okay, public. Sorry, it's every time I use an item data, I need to write a corresponding piece of code for items. Um, do I really call that potentially with 0? I do. That's a problem. All right, I have to change this to not allow null. The reason is that I can't have, like, it won't be able to distinguish which of these methods to call. Uh, that equals item. The TypeScript compiler to add mix-in support. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. This dot item equals item. Yep, this is the wrong type of item. Do I actually use yes. It's frustrating. What on earth? See, this is a bad use of composition. This is ridiculous. Uh, where do I actually use this? Oh, all over the place. All right. I'm going to have to resist the urge to refactor the world. So I've got this, got this. We just need to change this one to use ontology. Yeah, when you have to start writing tools to support your development, things can get a bit out of control. I'm just going to pop off screen for a second. I forgot to pour my coffee. There we go. That looks right. Okay, going down, we've got a copy constructor. Numbers you put through don't show up in chat. That I cannot answer. It could be, were they decimal numbers? Like, were you, I wonder, I do have my spam filter turned way up, so it might think that you're typing in an IP address or something. Oh, not in chat. Oh, as in they don't show up in chat, yeah. I'd say that it's my spam filter. I'll just quickly see if I can tell if that's true. I don't see anything getting filtered out, but I don't know where I see potential spam. Yeah, I have the spam filter turned way up because there are a couple of spam bots coming through and posting all sorts of fun stuff. But if you put some text around it, it should be fine, I suspect. Depending on what that text is. Sorry. Okay, so we've got that. Yeah, I think that's clear enough. Then remove quantity does that, and if it becomes 0, then we need to say item equals null. Okay. That took me a while to write that code. See what I mean about being distracted? Okay, now this will have introduced some problems because, I was really hoping this would have been a compile error. That's unfortunate. How on earth does it know which function this is? I do not know. Uh, I've got this, not the stream, but I have the stream manager open in another window and I can't see anything here. Just give me a second. I will see YouTube, make sure this doesn't actually play anything. Yep, it's muted. There's my stream. I just see the same chat. See you say, well, tried to post some lorry to my game. Imagine the A's aren't there. Open up the stream on YouTube. We'll see what I'm talking about. No. I don't see what you're talking about there, random guy. Okay, this is failing. Excellent. This is what I wanted to fail. Yeah, when you type numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think that if you type them on their own, it thinks that you're doing, like, it just doesn't trust. I do have the spam filter turned way up, so it's just going to suppress it. If remaining greater than 0, this code just doesn't do what I want. This is a silly way to do it. See, this is why you should actually sit back and look at what you're intending to do rather than just blindly changing code. What I really want is something that can return an item stack with the same contents but a different quantity. So I'm just going to put a with quantity on here. Public void part with the clips. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, random guy. I suspect some of your messages have been swallowed by YouTube. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, no, I haven't done the final edit yet, so I can't remember where that part was at. I think I've recorded the audio for the part where I mentioned that you were doing something, but I don't think I have, and it's really, really short. Like, I don't go into a huge amount of detail. With quantity. Now I've lost my OBS window. There it is. So with quantity, int quantity is just going to return a new, let's go, new old item stack. See, I also don't like this. I prefer my objects to be immutable. And this breaks immutability, which is a bit of a problem. Var result is going to be equal to that. Result dot quantity is going to be equal to quantity, and then return that. I've been posting lore. Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad at keeping up with Reddit. I'll try and be better about that. Cool. Very cool. Okay, so back in here, what I really wanted to do was if quantity is greater than 0, then we are going to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to return a new old item stack. Uh, does that do what I want? I presume so. Um, got a few people on YouTube at the moment. 5 of you from by my count. It's funny how much the numbers change around actually. Like Twitch, some days Twitch gets quite a few in, other days it gets hardly anyone. Only one person in Twitch at the moment. Hello to whoever it is. They're very quiet. Okay, there's that. So now back in here, I can actually just return contents dot with remaining. I have no idea, Griffith, because YouTube doesn't tell me who is connected. I suspect if you're signed in, well, I assumed it would only count as one, but if you're signed in, but yeah, anything's possible. It would be good for my viewer stats, but for some reason YouTube doesn't count, like it doesn't pay any attention to the number of live viewers, which I find really weird, but okay. Where am I at? That's all good. That's all good. This is not good. I don't care about item data anymore. For the purpose of recipes, I'm going to do everything using... Oh, that was a noisy car. I'm going to do everything using item. Slots where slot. Ooh, that doesn't look good. What's it complaining about here? It's fine. I'll convert that to presume dictionary. Yep. Ah, here we go. This should be a string. It really depends on the style of the game. I don't think it's worth adding multiplayer for the sake of it. I think that if your game is a storytelling game, I don't think multiplayer belongs. Um, the obvious exception there is like puzzle games where, but you'd really, really, really want to think that through and have your puzzles designed for multiple players. Like the obvious one there is, of course, Portal 2. Portal 2 is an awesome multiplayer puzzle game. But yeah, if it's a story-based game like I can't remember the name of the game now. Oh, let me just quickly do a search in another window. I don't want to give anything away. Life is Strange is the game I was going for. If you look at Life is Strange, which is a really good storytelling game, then that would not make sense to have multiplayer in it. Congratulations, Random Guy. Item data is not assignable. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so we've got, I don't want item data, I want item. That's my first thing. Yeah, it's funny. I find that on multiplayer versus single player, I tend to prefer single player. If there's a multiplayer game, and I know that I do see the irony, um, if there's a multiplayer game, I tend to play it on my own first before I play it with other people. I don't know why. Socially awkward, perhaps. But certainly first-person shooters, for example, I really don't like going straight into a first-person shooter with other players. But yeah, the irony of me making an MMO is not lost on me. But I mean, you can solo in MMOs, and that does tend to be how I personally play. But not the focus I'm going for on my game. Okay, so we get the item. We need to, what are we actually trying to do? Available inputs excluding. So I'm trying to generate a dictionary from the item ID to a stack. Yeah, so I don't let it, I actually don't mind cooperative multiplayer as much. It's more the competitive multiplayer, or the combination, um, uh, capture the flag type games. I, um, yeah, capture the flag are the worst kind because yeah, I can A, let my team down really easily, and B, uh, just get headshots every 3 seconds every time I respawn because I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Um, yeah, I think that my game might be considered multiplayer. There is no single player option on mine. Okay. Available inputs excluding. So I'm trying to return the ID. What's this actually do? Oh, okay. In here, I just need to go item dot ID. Um, then in here, we don't have this got item. That's going to be item.id. So if we already have it, we pull out the quantity, and otherwise it's 0. And then we put an item stack in using that item type, but set the quantity to that. Awesome. I think that that is what I want. So this should now generate a dictionary that basically says how many of each ontological item you have. Available recipes for tool. This needs to stop using recipe book. It also doesn't want to fetch the store. We are going to return, do I have access to a session from here? No. Uh-oh, where do I get the session? Um, uh, this is potentially a problem. Uh, remote session, no. How on earth do I get access to the session? I thought I had. So here is my remote session. I'll tell you a game I wish was multiplayer that I don't think is, and that's The Long Dark. That would be awesome as a multiplayer game in sandbox mode. Obviously, wouldn't make sense in multiplayer. Sorry, in story mode, but in its sandbox, that'd be awesome to be able to. Actually, it does, doesn't it? It does have multiplayer. Yes. Sorry, I take it back. It already has it. I've just never played it. So is this a singleton? Yes, it's a singleton. So do I just want to expose the session? Yeah, I think this is right. Um, yeah, Skyrim. That's a good one. I love those open world ones. So another game in a similar vein is Fallout. Can't remember which one it was I liked. It was three or four. Public vote session. Valid session. So what I'm actually going to do here is make this. Oh, remote session is not even public. Wow. So what this is going to do is it's going to just say valid session dot state status equal to established. Then it return not valid session. That should be underscore session. Multiplayer map. All right. So my goal here, by the way, the reason I'm doing this is I want my callers to have to call, um, to have to check this for null, and never be able to get access to a session that's not established. Okay. All these things that were internal and now need to be public. That needs to be more public. Oh, wow, this is... Well, I don't want all of this to be as public as it is. Oh, no, it's all good. It's all fine. Okay, server manager instance valid session. You're not connected, there are no recipes. Otherwise, it should return the ontology store. We don't have structures yet. Let's actually just write this one from scratch. So what this is trying to do is say that it has all of its tool requirements fulfilled. All right, this is going to be a slightly more complicated bit of code. Recipe.tools.all. Is this one that takes a predicate? It is. And it returns a Boolean? It does. Excellent. So we want to find a case where all of the tools are held. Well, this only supports a single tool. This will hopefully change if I change my UI a bit. Recipe tool. Say that the recipe tool dot capability wow, it's not trivial. Empty set. Whatever. I know this is inefficient, but as I keep on saying, it's just to get this stuff going. Okay, so we want to find case where the toolcaps dot has dot contains. There we go. Recipe tool dot capability. Okay, so we grab all the recipes. We then check that for each tool required, check that our tool has the capability to perform that action. All right, that was simpler than I expected. I was expecting this to get pretty nasty. Oh, what did I just do? To list. What's it returning? Oh, wrong kind of recipe. Uh, Recipe. All right. Crafting interface. I'm going to be able to delete the recipe book class in a moment, and that'll get rid of a whole bunch of classes. Presenter needs to work on recipes. There we go. You know, I can probably simplify this a bit if I'd actually come in here, rename this class. I'm probably going to regret this in a second. If I rename that to recipe, that is all okay, I believe. And then actually delete this class. Sure I don't need it? I'm pretty sure I don't need it. There are two kinds of recipe. Yeah, so yes, I think you've already worked this out. It's just my old implementation and the new kind of proxy off to the server. Um, sorry, not proxy. Proxy is the wrong word there. Just the simple copy of what's on the server. So this, I'll need to rewrite a bunch of code inside here because yeah, I've still got a few other code paths. Recipe book and go. These do need to be updated to support the new stuff. View.crafting recipe. This needs to pull in the correct kind of recipe. Hey, that was quick. This needs, oops, that. Ah, my UI only supports a single kind of output. Value dot outputs 0. All right. I do it in here as well. It's all right. This has to be items. Icons. All right. Yep, I'll need to resolve this. That can just be name, I think. Do I not have a name? Ah, it's okay. What I can do in here is I can just go output is going to be equal to, so I actually need to look up the output from the ontology. So this is going to be server manager instance session dot items ontology. No? Yeah, ontology store dot items. Dot value dot outputs dot that. No, it doesn't like that. Ah, That is a dictionary from string. That should be a string. I don't quite get what's wrong with that. Is it this syntax in here? Thought that was valid. This can be null. Ah, okay. Yes, I know what the problem is here. I just need to pull out that. Session if not session, then log don't know why it doesn't like that. Oh, nothing to do. A little bit of a brain freeze there. Okay, session dot, let me know that's valid. I know that all of this stuff is valid. Okay, so now I've still got the same problem, which is we don't know the icon for this item, so I'm going to have to add that into the server. Let's assume it's going to be that. Create that property, but this is going to be a string. And then here I need some sort of, I should have some sort of a caching layer, but I just need to tell it to load. I don't know, what's it called, a sprite, or is it a texture? Sprite. Um, sprites down here. No. Um, yeah, my prefabs. Oh, have I just killed something? What's my machine doing? Yeah, it's just not liking the fact that my code doesn't compile. Under items, we've got stones. And then somewhere in here, icon. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I need to think a bit about, at some point, about, these might come out of like sprite atlases at some point, so I need to think about how to reference these. Uh, but as I keep on saying, for now, this is just going to be items, terrain scatter, stones. So let's get, how do I copy the full reference to that? Right click, copy path. Then back in here, say icon is going to be equal to that. Think that's okay? And then the round stone is going to be And X. Is going to be that. This is wrong. That's meant to be tools, stone. There we go. Okay. Wow, this is a large packet going out. There's definitely a bug in there. All right. So I think that that should work. It's not all that performant, but to do cache these. And then this can be output.name. We need an input. Input. Session dot. Let's just do that same stuff again. Now here is an issue that my model doesn't currently handle. Let me just fix this other compiler first. That. Now my issue here is that my server-side model recipes, I don't have a way of representing a capability with an icon. Now the simplest way of fixing that, what's this? Why's that not working? Inputs. Oh. Nobody look. Right, can I just do value.inputs.list to list 0? Like I said, nobody look. Guess the code compiling. That actually might be performant. Hopefully that doesn't actually create a copy of it. Kind of interested to know now. No, it does create a copy. Oh well. All right. So I need to change tools to support I'm sure there's a better way of getting an arbitrary item out of a set, but whatever. Now, okay, server side. I need to tell it how to display a capability. And so for now, I'll just do that. What might make more sense is to have some sort of a descriptor for capabilities that allows a capability to be shown as an icon. Need to have a think about that from a UX point of view, though. So perhaps better yet would be find the tool that you're actually using and just use its icon. Okay, this is going to be session.on. No, I just need value.tool. Everyone look away again. As I do a .to list again. Icon, and that needs to have. Oh, I've got to keep an eye on the time. Something like that. Okay. Recipe, name. All right, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to port across as much of this code as I can. Um, hopefully get it compiling, give it a test, and then I'll have to finish up my stream because I do have another appointment coming up that I need to prepare for. Yeah, it's a every fiber of my being wants me to actually fix that stuff, but it's it's something that's worth being able to do. Otherwise, it can get pretty difficult to get anything done. Inputs, uh, execute crafting. Okay, no, I don't like this. Uh, oh, this is okay. I just need to go item. Input slots. Operator that cannot be applied. Yep. Spec. Now I want to return, I presume, string. No. I don't know what this is meant to be. Item? Okay, what this is trying to do is, I'll still be going a little bit longer, Graphic. Not quite, don't quite have to go yet. What this is trying to do is it's trying to say, all right, for each of the things in our recipe that we're going to be consuming here, which slot are we going to be pulling them from? Now, I do need to put some equality and hashes on here. Let's just put a bookmark here so I can get back here more easily. Item data, presumably I wrote quality checks. I didn't. Oh, I didn't need to because they were scriptable objects. Scriptable objects are, they use a multi-ton pattern. So they are, if you've got the same instance twice, they will have the same reference. But I do need to add some equality checks here. I think that IntelliJ will do this for me. There we go. Got hash code, got equality. It doesn't like this. Non-read-only serialized field. Yes, that's an issue. The issue here is once I've got hash code, it's saying, hey, if contents changes, then your hash code would change, which is a problem. Oh, this is the wrong type anyway. Hold on. Let's undo that. Come back to here. This should not be that kind of item. This should be an ontology. Nope. What am I doing? Item spec. Now we can do equality. Presumably we can make these read-only. They should have been to begin with. Okay, so now I should be able to do this. This is now valid. And it will use the actual values of ID and number in order to put these into a dictionary. Input dot ID. So that's just an ID. I now need to look up the ontology for that. Ontology is going to be remote server manager instance. I'm not sure that this whole request chain here is the correct way of doing it. I should probably have a I can't make the actual ontology store a singleton, but perhaps I should have a singleton which is able to return a reference to the ontology store. Might make more sense, but session, valid session dot, hold on. If not session, not so much as a cache, just something that can, well, I guess it could cache this value here, because this never changes. It could potentially, I could make something that does this boilerplate that I'm having to do everywhere, which is manage the case of the session dying. I've got to be a bit careful because a lot of this code will be running on the main thread, so I can't block. It would be nice if I could block. Yeah. Unable to execute crafting request as we have no valid session. Yeah, this code in here will actually execute any time that we that the session goes away and we're waiting for a new session to come up. In fact, maybe what I really want is a function that executes. Yeah, if this were instead a function that accepted two functions as parameters, basically an on success and an on failure, then you could pass those through and have it kind of execute either this code, which is the handle the case where we don't have a session, or this code and handle the case where we do have a session. That might be a nice way of doing it. But it won't overly simplify this code here. I don't think, now that I think about it. All right, so if we can't do it, we just can't do it. So we'll just return. So now we should have an ontology. What was I actually trying to do in here? We've got the input is an item spec. This is wrong. This should be item is going to be equal to the session.ontology stored items input ID. If we have an item, and we don't yet have, oh no, this should be item. not an item spec. Ah, it's not. Uh, I don't understand why I can't access ontology.item anymore. Public. There it goes. That's got the correct kind of item now. I don't know exactly what I did, but that's fine. But yeah, this now does need equality checks. I'm tempted just to keep this simple and say if two items have the same ID, just call them equal. Yeah, let's do it. It's a bit dodgy. Oh, that was the wrong function though. Equality members, and I'll just compare ID. Okay. We've got our item. If it's not already in there, then we're going to insert it. I am still at it. Going to be finishing up the stream in just a moment because I unfortunately have some other stuff to do. But I'm hoping to get this code compiling and tested. I don't expect it to work, but I'd love to just be able to run it and see what happens. This needs an inventory slot. Well, yeah, where contents.item is going to be equal to item, but I need to do this as a dot equals because they're not going to have the same references. What did I just do? Slot.contents, possible null reference. Oh, the tree's coming in and out. Yes. Yeah, so at the moment I'm working on getting the crafting and harvesting ported across to the server. And it's making a lot of the configuration a lot simpler. So I will just kind of show it off quickly. You can see over here, I kind of define all the properties of stones, give things capabilities. Like we say that round stones can be used for knapping. And then recipes say, well, you need something that can be used for knapping. You need a flat stone, and it will create a hand axe. So currently integrating that into the client so that we can then start sending commands off to the server and actually have the server process the crafting for us. So this is meant to be finding the slots. That contain valid items. So this is the slots. I think it's just like a 2 as, no, what am I trying to do? Pack item. I'm expecting a list of inventory slots. Oh, need a bracket. To list or something. What? I'm not a fan of the bang dot, but what have I done wrong here? That's an enumerable of inventory slot to list. Got an extra bracket somewhere. All right. That function's done. Well, we now have the input slots. So for a given item that is in the recipe, we can see which slots are able to fulfill that requirement. Remove all the required inputs. So we go through each of the required inputs on the recipe. We say that the quantity needed is equal to that. We grab, this is going to have to get, it's going to have to look up the ontology, isn't it? Ontology.items input.id. So given the required input ID, so just coming back here, here's an input. This is saying, hey, we need one flatstone. So here's the flatstone. It looks it up from our ontology. So now that will give us this data. Then we look that up in input slots, which tells us which actual inventory slots contain those items. Then for each of those slots, we try removing up to quantity needed items from it. And we keep on doing that until we have all the items. Next, we need an output. var output is going to be recipe.outputs 0. Yeah, okay, so this will only support a single output for now. This can just become output. No, this is not correct. There we go. So we look up the ID of the thing we're about to create. We look up its data. We find a slot that can contain a stack of outputs this is all a bit ugly. You'll all forgive me. What number? Let's put this in a variable. Okay. So we look up the item details, we create a hypothetical stack of however many of those items we need. We then find an inventory slot that is able to contain that hypothetical slot. Excellent. If we found one, then place the output. I think that's actually just output stack. Cool. Otherwise, so if it found a place to put it, then put it in the inventory. Otherwise, this has to go on the ground. This might be non-trivial. I'm tempted to just delete this code. I don't have any cases where this can happen at the moment. So an actual case where this could happen is imagine that flat stones were stackable. If flat stones were stackable, you could hold two of them in your left hand, hold a round stone in your right hand, and when you tried to create a hand axe, it would remove a single flat stone from your left hand, but you would have nowhere to put the hand axe, and so it would drop it on the ground. But given they're not stackable, I'm actually just going to replace this with a to-do. Call into the put-down performer. If/when it can be externally called. So basically what I'm saying is it will simulate a drop event if there's no space. Okay, lastly, I think I've only got one set of compile errors. We no longer have a recipe book. We no longer have a recipe book. We no longer have a recipe book. Ooh. Taking bets. My money is on it. Oh, not compiling. What's its problem? Construct verb performer. Yes, I know what the issue is here. I'm actually going to have to just disable this code. The issue here is that we don't have a way of representing. I've just deleted the code that represents structures. So this is for constructing structures. So I think my best bet is actually to comment out a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's some way that I can. I'm not a fan of commented out code, but I think this is the best approach here. There's a minimum set of can perform. I think if I define that, or do I just delete this class? I got version control. Let's just delete it. All right. Compiles. We still have entities. This is working slightly better than I was expecting. I'm a little concerned about all those player models over here. What are they? Let's just blow away the database. Zombies. I'm not sure they are zombies actually. There's a piece of code that uses the player model as the default object, and so it's possible that they're just bugged out stones. I'm not entirely sure why they'd only occur at a distance, but as has been pointed out, I think by Griffic, yeah, I should be using a different model for that rather than the player model. Zombies are cooler than stones. Zombie stones, though. Okay, all right, maybe they're not so cool. What's this doing? Come on, I can't finish up the stream here. I need to actually test it. So my plan is to just test it, and I'm not intending to fix anything that goes wrong. I may look at it just to see if it's anything obvious, but this is a pretty significant code change I've just made. So I'm not expecting any minor changes. All right. Play. Stones that eat brains. They eat pebbles or something? I don't know. What would a stone brain be? Yeah, okay. So this is clearly not happy. I must have something blocking up the main thread. Critical failure has occurred. I am streaming on YouTube as well. It's a different channel though. I'll quickly post that if I can find it. Your channel. I set up a bot command to type all my socials out. I wonder if I can. Is it bang YT? No. Exclamation mark social? No, no idea. There is my second channel, and that has the streams on it. I can continue to work, but the full functionality will be okay. Right, let's stop. I'll just do a restart here. Restart IDE. Thanks, Kilo. Appreciate it. Okay, and then play. Please don't die. Oh, well, that's clearly not going to work. I don't think I've restarted my server, did I? There we go. I really don't want to have to leave things with a lockup on startup. Candy gone. There you go. Oh, why? Why? I have no idea what those items are. I I do have a debug component somewhere. I don't think it's enabled at the moment, but there's I've got a component that will actually display information about what I'm pointing at. And I might have to actually enable that. It's the only time I expect those things to appear if an item in the database, it has to be a scatter item being created where we don't understand the prefab that's being sent through. But I can see all of my scatter. I've only got 4 kinds of scatter. Is that right? 4 kinds of scatter? Config scatter. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only got 4 kinds of scatter. Spruce, raspberry, round stone, and flat stone. Then if I come into the entity service, which has those 4 things defined, entity service, here are my prefabs. So we've got spruce tree has a model, which is understood by the client, and I've seen them. Raspberry, I've seen them. I wonder, off by 1 error, perhaps, or it's something to do with the size of a, for some reason, it's something's getting sent through as a UDP update, and something's falling off the end of a frame or something like that. That could also do it. Flat stone, they're just I've got 2 kinds of stones. These ones here are the flat stones, and then these ones here are the round stones. And then in theory, I can press a button here, and it's meant to have craft and eat it. Probably not good for us. So yeah, I don't know why these items have invalid properties. If I could just hover over them and see their IDs, then I'd be able to just look them up in the database. Oh, hang on, I can look them up locally. What happens if I do scene, world, player, there's the player, and then I can select one of these. It has like no properties at all. Like if I click on a stone, it's got this item type. And more importantly, it's got a remote entity data. This is where all the interesting stuff lives. But this guy does not have a remote entity data. So it's being created through some other means. That's bizarre. Anyway. I won't look too far into this now. What's likely happening in here, crafting verb performer. We've got this can perform. So this is the code that actually gets called when I try to do a craft, like when I press the use button. If we come back in here, tiny bit of debugging. So we've picked it up. It's going to hit this breakpoint a few times. If I hit the use button, now, it will call that code to say, "Hey, are you able to perform an action?" Now, with is my primary hand, so it's trying to perform an action with my primary hand. Available recipes with inventory. Oh, do I want to quickly implement this? I want to quickly implement this. All this needs to do is we've got the available inputs excluding the tool. And then we want to do server manager dot valid, no, dot instance dot valid session. If not session, then return a new list. Otherwise, we're going to ask for all of the recipes and then I wanted to say dot where. Recipe dot tools dot all. I've already written code that does something similar to this, haven't I? Which is this code. Copy and paste. So this finds all of the recipes wrong. Go. Okay, so this finds what our current tool's capabilities are. We then find all of the recipes where each of the tools required for that recipe are within our capabilities. And we also want to do a search for whether or not we have the inputs available. Available inputs. Is this already using item? Yes. Dot inputs dot all available inputs dot contains key input dot id. Okay. Let's ask it to collapse all of this stuff. There we go. Ditto for here. Okay. So for each recipe, keep all those where the tool, where we meet all the requirements of the tools, and keep those ones where we have all of the inputs. And then I think we're just going to return this. This code can all go. Run it. Stop this. Pick up a flat stone. Oops. Oh, that doesn't look good. Still no craft. Available inputs. We have none. And yeah, so the reason for that is I'm not going to fix this now. The reason for that is that in our pickup performer, when we actually try to perform it, it's going to be copying across the item data, but not the item. So anyone who's joined, the issue here, who's joined kind of recently, the issue is that I'm in the middle of refactoring the way that data is stored about the items, and so this just isn't going to work because I'm missing something. It's probably in my inventory system. When we do a place item, my guess is here it is. Oh, do I want to try fixing this? Because I think this is as simple as just saying item.withQuantity, like that. I mean, if that were it, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah, so the issue is the stone that's on the ground has all of the, it has the ontology data, the ontological data associated with it. But as I'm picking it up, it's losing that data. Catch you around, Kilo. I probably won't be streaming tomorrow, but I'll be streaming again Monday my time. So that's Sunday night US. I'm still not right here with it's picking up 2 items. I think it's picking up 2 items. Let's just drop that one. Oh, what was that? One of the items just vanished. Pick up another one of these. All right. So it's still not finding any available inputs. All right. This is going to have to wait till tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow. I'm very unlikely to get any time tomorrow. So yeah, I'll start working again on this on Monday. So thank you again, everyone for joining me. And until next time, catch you.